And Robert says, shameless plug, Horizon 11. I absolutely would highlight that. If you guys are looking, honestly, after what happened last week with Square Enix and their update on Final Fantasy 11 and their plan for Final Fantasy 11, I think if nothing else just sings to say, go play Horizon XI. That's, if you like 11, that's where the support is, in my opinion.
It's a change in leadership.
It's a change in leadership, and they're doing the right thing. He's wanting his team to be able to go and work on other things, so it's a further reduction in staff.
You read about the servers, and it feels not worth it. One guy basically controls it all. Yeah, I mean, as somebody that doesn't play 11, I read it, and I don't really know anything. Like, it's definitely a change. The previous person, my understanding, had been around since like 2012. So, you know, at a certain point, like, somebody just wanting to leave to work on other things is a real possibility, not just for leadership, but for the actual devs themselves. So there was a lot of that in that statement. The fact that they can't just replace them with full-time devs is just a sign of the project. Like, that's what happens when these projects get put out to pasture to kind of just live. So, I don't know. It's the support for 11, and then like the private side is really weird to me. The fact that you have basically Square Enix, a giant publisher, allowing a private party to knowingly kind of compete with a product of theirs that has a revenue source. Like, 11 servers do make money. So the fact that it just lives out there is kind of weird. It feels like they could make life really painful for them and kind of get those servers pushed offline. Just from like a corporate standpoint, like that's what a lot of other companies would do. And so it feels really odd to me. There are definitely companies that have those symbiotic relationships, but even long term, a lot of those eventually fall short. You have companies like, you know, like Adobe runs into all sorts of issues where they'll allow certain things to exist within plugins or within certain Swatch libraries and things like that. And then eventually long term, that becomes contentious. It's the same issue with 14 and its music library. By like sharing ownership of some of the songs, that has never, like, it's made maybe a better product up front, but it has made nothing but headaches long term. So co-ownership in the corporate space just never seems to end well. It's tough. So I don't really know the correct answer there. As somebody that's not like an 11 fan, I just get to kind of watch totally third party and just kind of look on and say, yeah, that does look hard. Like when they, like a lot of what was in that statement felt really reasonable to me. A lot of what was in that statement was like, we have devs that are working in 10-year-old dev tools and never get to move on. And I have a friend who's a programmer on some really old systems, and they're for government contractors and stuff. And so like, depending on how all that stuff's tied up, he can get stuck in a programming language that was old when he started and it only gets older. And so if he ever gets tired of that work, it's going to be hard for him to go out and find another job compared to somebody that's been working within the up-to-date tools. So he just ends up in this weird spot where like it can hurt his career and he's bored. So he's staying in a job and like, yeah, they can keep giving him raises to keep him around, I guess, until they're at the end of their funding. And then he's just kind of stuck. So I can see how the 11 team kind of gets put in a weird spot where when there's a leadership change, it's also time to say, hey, we need for this dev talent to have the ability to go work on other things. It's tough. Here we go. You streamed Prog to share Prog videos with your static and it auto mutes because it uses the primal versions of the tracks. That's so annoying. I mean, it's cool that there is music that is that neat out there, but like, yeah, the primal stuff, it's not super good at. You did see Square added tons of 11 merch recently to their online merch store. Well, that's a good sign for that they're not done investing in the project, right? If they were truly going to just let it die out, you would just start scrubbing any references to 11 and you would just redirect out all traffic to new stuff. So The fact that they're still willing to monetize it says that they still think it has value. If they didn't think anybody would buy it, they wouldn't list it. And they would not invest any time and effort in merch. So, speaking of plushes, there's like these squishmallows. There's these new, they're effectively Beanie Babies. They're cheaply made, felt, super squishy stuffed animals that mimic Beanie Babies. And there's ones that are like, they're from like $15 up to like crazy amounts. And I am just now learning about this, a sign that I am out of it, because that is what I guess like people my niece and nephew's age are wanting. They're super soft. We have some because we're in that role where we get to give gifts to kids, but we don't have kids. And so we're always kind of like, what's the right gift for a kid this age?